Hey, welcome everyone. I've got Morry Zelcovitch here, Brainwave Entrainment Engineer in my Hero series. How are you?
I'm terrific, Andre. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Awesome. I'm glad that I found out I've actually used your products and I had real positive outcomes. And I just realized it just the last few hours. So I'm really excited about. Tell me about you. Like, what was the challenge that brought you into this field at all?
Well, let's see. 40 years of severe depression. That's the short version. Basically, I woke up every single morning for about 40 years. I would cross my fingers, I would look out the window and hope I would see mushroom clouds. I had a phrase that I repeated over and over and over again to myself every day. Life is a disease for which there is no cure but death. That's how I felt. I felt life sucked. I felt people sucked. I felt the world sucked. And none of it, including myself, should be alive. And I hurt myself all the time. Like I said, I multiple suicide attempts. You know, for those of you out there, I've told this to Andre before. So, and just tons and tons of ill feeling and hating and feeling horrible, and everything I tried, nothing worked. It was just terrible. I mean, it's pretty easy to kill yourself, right? So the fact that I couldn't succeed, especially after multiple attempts, kind of told me that I didn't really want to die. So if I didn't want to die, or if I couldn't find a way to die, I had to find a way to live. And that's what kind of started me on the way. I started thinking to myself, well, where's my problem? It seemed pretty obvious to me the problem was there. All the negative thoughts, all the horrible feelings, all of that originated from my mind. You know, repeating negative thoughts and negative words and negative affirmations and just making myself even more miserable than I was actually. So when I realized that was my problem's up here. Well, what's up here? I was hoping that it would be a brain. And then I started researching the brain. Yeah, well, you know what? You never know, right? Until you see it, you don't know. So I started researching the brain, and I started researching things like psychology and neurochemistry and quantum physics. And, you know, I know quantum physics doesn't sound like it's the, you know, the kind of thing you would study, but I was drawn to it. And there's certain aspects in all these different disciplines that I was drawn to. And I learned various things about the brain, about the mind, about human interaction, about the world, about how, you know, we all feel like we live in the same world. And in reality, we all live in different bubbles. So you assume the world is the same for me that it is for you. I assume the world is the same for you that it is for me. And yet, if we were both walking down the same street and we were interviewed about what we saw, we'd describe what would appear like two different planets for what you saw and experienced compared to what I saw and experienced, despite the fact we saw and experienced the same things. Oh, so as I'm studying all of this, I started learning things. For instance, I learned that your thoughts create brainwave activity. So everybody probably out there has heard of alpha and beta and gamma and theta and delta waves. All that describes really is your neurons, which are your brain cells. You have billions of them, and they pulse a little minute electric impulse. That's what they do. And depending on how many times they pulse and the region of the brain, that dictates the kind of chemistry they create. And the kind of chemistry, it turns out, is like ingredients in a soup. And if you make a good tasting, healthy soup, it tastes good and it's good for you. If you make a crappy soup, it tastes like crap and it's not good for you. And I was apparently creating the crappy soup. Not a good cook. And I ended up basically realizing that your thoughts create brainwave activity, which creates chemistry, and it's the chemistry that allows you to feel what you feel. So I came across brainwave entrainment through a lot of different angles. The first one was really a camping trip. And when I did come to that conclusion that brainwave entrainment existed and it's something that might help me, I started researching neurological basis of the mind and the brain and how it affects and what it affects. Because on this camping trip, I mentioned a second ago, I was alone. My friends had gone to sleep. I used to be a drug addict. and an alcoholic and a sex addict and all these lovely things. And I rolled myself a big joint, like that big. Okay. And because that helped me to sleep, right? Because I was so wasted that I wouldn't think terrible thoughts all the time. So I smoked it, and it should have taken me half an hour, and I would have gone to sleep around midnight, 12:30. I ended up smoking it, and I finished it. It was like 3:34 in the morning. And that was the first time in my life that time had gone quickly. Before that time, it was slow, laboriously slow. And I realized, I added two and two together, that it was the crackling of the wood. Pop, 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 snap, 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 pop, pop, pop. That actually did something to my mind. And that led me to other sounds, and that led me to science, which led me to brainwave entrainment, which I wish I could claim I created, but I did not. And then I did create my own form of brainwave entrainment. And in doing that, it started lifting me out of my 40 years of wanting to be dead. And that's when I knew I was onto something.
Wow,
and,
what a journey.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm actually grateful for all the pain now that I had.
Yeah, what I've heard from you is this absolute apathy and starting point, apathy and lack of self-worth.
Yeah.
Wasted. And that has brought you, how many years has this taken you to, from that point to then really start to get on purpose, or at least get motivated to move towards helping yourself and others?
Actually, it turns out, in a manner of speaking, I've been doing my research most of my life, because all the pain and everything was teaching me things too. So, you can look back on experience and learnings and pick things out of it and understand things better once you've had a chance to live a little bit. Not that I'm wise, but I'm certainly wiser than I was. And that helped me. The amount of time it took was probably, like, from that camping trip, probably about 20 years. I'm a slow learner. I'm a really slow learner. About 20 years before I probably had my first recording that I tested, and I noticed changed a whole lot of things even after just one listening. But yeah, about 20 years. It's funny because when you ask that question, the first thought that popped into my mind was, oh, about 6 months. And then I started thinking about it. Actually, no, it was about 20 years from that camping trip to my first recording. Yeah.
It's always impressive to me this, how many years one has to suffer to actually then really labor out the new self, or that purpose that would then drive life, and a life would start to make sense. For me, it's been 30 years of feeling worthless and not deserving it. Yeah. So how are you helping people? You got, if you can give us a snapshot of the product that you have, and as I said before, I realized that I used one of your products, and I believe it really opened my eyes toward seeing something different. I just presented on this one this morning, and it's like less than 1% we can see. So I always help people to see a different 1% of reality, so they are happier. So tell us, what have you got for seekers of happiness and peace?
Interestingly enough, I don't help anybody. My products are standalone. The most important aspect of anything I do is your brain, and that's yours, not mine. I have nothing to do with your brain. My products stimulate your brain. So currently I have 23 products, and almost all of them have unique ways of doing things. That's the other thing about me. When I create something, I need to include something brand new into it. This is just something that started when I first started creating products, because I make them by myself. The first products I made were for me. They weren't for anybody else. Turns out everyone has a brain, so they were able to be beneficial to people. But, it's really a matter of, I realized that no one's going to help me. Even the books with the experts, when you get down to it, I won't mention names, but everybody knows the really big names in the self-help business. And they have names that maybe aren't really big, but that they've met or that they know of that are really good at it. The problem is that you can only be an expert in your own life. Now, this is my opinion. I know I'm talking like it's a fact, but this is only my opinion. I can only be an expert in my own life. I believe all the big names can only be experts in their lives. And just because something worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So when I design my products, they're not designed for my wisdom to help you. They're designed for my knowledge and what I've learned to help you to help yourself. That's what's different. I'm not an expert. I'm not a coach. I don't know anything about your life. I had 40 years of misery because I misinterpreted education for pain. I think, in my opinion, I think a lot of people do that. And when you think something's painful or bad, this is your reaction.
Yeah.
But you think something is an education experience, you go, I wonder what I'm not learning here. I wonder what I'm not getting. So I think my pain and my torture was kind of self-inflicted because I chose to make it pain and torture as opposed to what it probably was, which was a lesson or multiple lessons in my case.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. And especially I picked up one of those first sentences that you told me was you had this repeating mantra about life sucks and it's a shit place and it's not going to work out. I mean, how powerful that the story you tell yourself or people tell themselves is, we are the best hypnotherapists of this planet. And as long as we're suggesting that negative ways of looking at life or looking for trouble or angry people,
you'll find trouble if you look for it.
Gonna find it.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And the thing is, once I finally realized that, just because you feel pain, pain's actually a good thing. Imagine if you broke your leg, your femur breaks in half and part of it's sticking out of your leg and you don't feel any pain. So maybe you don't do much about it because you don't feel pain. Maybe you try to kind of fix it yourself a little bit and you put a stick around with some sheets and you tie it up and, you heal. But because you didn't go to a hospital, you didn't go to a doctor, it didn't set properly. So now maybe you limp the rest of your life. Maybe it gets infected and it needs to be cut off. Maybe it gets infected and you die. Pain is good. Pain makes you take action when something is urgent. When I felt my psychological pain, I misinterpreted it for being this kind of thing. It's bad, keep away from me. It was warning me. It was trying to warn me of something horrible. And I wasn't paying attention. I probably had many warnings, multiple warnings, a long time before that, which I misinterpreted as bad and I chose to ignore it. Like when you walk down the street and you see something you don't want to look at, you turn your head and you walk by and you pretend it never happened.
Yeah, a lot of
maybe it was good. You needed to pay attention, but I didn't. I mean, look, I'm not wise at all. I'm 60 years old and it took me forever to learn this stuff. So I'm the farthest thing from smart. But eventually I'm learning, I'm getting these understandings at least. And, I'm moving forward. So it's good.
So how does your entrainment product, Brainwave Entrainment product, fit into this personal development space? How would you position yourself?
Okay, so I think there's a lot of good people out there, and I think there's a lot of good products out there. And for anything to work well, it requires whatever it's using to work well as well. Can I say well any more times? So that means that if you're using a system that maybe involves some kind of mental exercises or physical exercise, for the mental exercise, if your brain is stronger and better and more efficient, then those mental exercises should be easier and better and accomplish more. Just like with physical work, if you were helping a friend move their apartment from one place to another and you're out of shape, it's going to cause you a lot of pain. You're going to get very tired. But if you're in good shape, it's going to be a lot easier for you. So I believe in the self-help field, if your brain is in good shape, if your brain is stronger, then you're likely to do better with anything you do, any system you use, any product you use. So I have a series of products. I don't just have one. I have a series of products for various purposes. And I look at the brain as a muscle. So because the brain is a muscle, or at least because I consider the brain a muscle, if it doesn't pass through, and this is a fact, although I will say it's my current understanding, but I believe that to be true now, is that if it doesn't pass through your brain, you don't experience it. So if someone slaps you in the face, but your brain doesn't create brainwave activity to legitimize it, if you will, or to recognize it, then you don't get neurochemistry to tell you, hey, I just got slapped, and you feel the pain of the slap and the tingling and whatever else. If you don't produce that neurochemistry, if you don't have that brainwave activity, then you don't even know you were slapped, even though someone just slapped you and your head moved. You don't even know it's there because you didn't have the physiological, the actual event that allows you to feel these things. So because of that, the brainwave entrainment I create helps the brain to become what I would term stronger, more in shape muscle, if you will, so that now anything that passes through that brain is going to be that much more efficient and that much stronger too, because the muscle grouping, if you will, is stronger. And that's what brainwave entrainment does. So when it's properly engineered, you're not replacing other modalities. You're not saying, oh, my stuff is the best and everybody else sucks. Don't buy this guy, don't buy that girl, don't buy this product, don't buy that product, just buy mine, because if you buy mine, that's all you need. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is mine can help those others to be that much better. And quite frankly, those can make mine be better too. I think it's a synergistic relationship. I think everybody helps everybody. If you have a modicum of intellect and desire and you want to do well, you have good intention, I think you can do a lot of good in this world. You don't have to be a neuroscientist. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a scientist. You can just be a nice person with good intention and use your creativity. And I bet you any one of you out there who's a nice person and lets their mind go and be creative can come up with a product that will help a bunch of somebody's have a better life. And I'll tell you something, especially when you're depressed, one of the best things you can do when you're depressed is to volunteer to help people to do things.
Yeah,
because it gives you a sense of worth, right? And if you can come up with some idea, some concept, some product that can help others, that's wonderful. And I encourage you to think about it. And you know what? Even if you're the kind of person who reads the books of others and wants to listen to everybody else, you'll have a lot more success if instead of following their blueprint, you think about it, you interpret it within your own frame of reference, and you redefine it and then take action on it rather than listening to them. Because remember, all they can be is experts on themselves, not on you. You're the expert on yourself. So take what they have to say, take their wisdom, take their ideas, change it into something for you. And then if you're still inspired, go ahead and do it. The other thing is maybe you're inspired by trying a few different products from a few different people, and you get an idea on how you can modify their products to make it even better. That's what we're all about. Nobody cares in the self-improvement space, as far as I know. Nobody cares if someone comes up with something different, because they all just want people to feel better. And the more options there are, the more likely it is you're going to find something to help yourself. So, stop defining what you feel as pain, define it more as an education. And then you might end up like me, being grateful for it in the end.
I love it. And would you say for your product to really be efficient and get results, what's the key? Is it consistency? And what would be the kind of time frame? And I know it could be different as far as brains are different, but what would be the key to get results from your product? And I've seen a few reviews, and I have to say, I have been one of your clients as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Before we went live, we were talking about this. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so the key to anything is consistency. If you do a good workout for half an hour today and then you don't work out again for a month, you're not going to get good results. If you do a good workout 30 minutes a day for 4 or 5 days a week, you'll start seeing some pretty decent results. So consistency, definitely. Keep in mind, consistency with my work more or less involves lying down, closing your eyes, putting on an ordinary pair of stereo headphones and hitting play. So basically I'm saying, go have a nap while you listen to my stuff. That's what's involved in being consistent. As far as time frame, I've had people who feel something. Now, understand, I'm not saying changing their life or anything, but I have people who feel something within 5 or 6 minutes of listening to the first recording. I've had other people who didn't feel anything for 2 months, and then other people pointed out things to them.
Mm.
Because, you know, what's interesting is, and I use this explanation all the time. So Andre, you're the elbow on your left arm. How does it feel right now?
It feels the armrest on the left.
Okay, but is there any pain or discomfort?
No.
Okay. Now, before I asked you, how does the elbow on your left arm feel? When was the last time you thought about your elbow on your left arm?
Ages. I didn't pay attention, right?
Right. And would I be correct in assuming that pretty much that entire time there was no pain in your elbow?
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, there you go. So that teaches us all a lesson, because Andre's no different than me or you or anybody out there. If we don't feel pain, if we feel comfortable, if we feel good, we tend not to notice. We tend to notice, you know, pain and discomfort. Now, if your elbow was hurting you, if you had arthritis or tennis elbow, or you bashed it into a wall, you'd feel that and you'd suddenly become very aware of your elbow. So when you ask, how long does it take to feel results? Then I would say that really depends on you and how self-aware you are. Because a lot of people I've talked to, clients of mine, who will tell me, Morry, I love listening to your stuff. I find it quite relaxing when I'm listening, but I haven't noticed any results. And I say, okay, so tell me something. If you haven't noticed results, why do you keep listening? Well, because I like listening. It feels good. Oh, okay. And we talk, and within 20 minutes, there's usually 8 or 9 things that have changed, have gotten better for them.
Mm.
But they don't recognize it like that because they're looking for something in particular.
Yeah.
You know, looking for, I don't know, less of something or more of something else. They're looking for the color red, but they see the color purple, so they don't recognize it as something. Everybody notices pain and discomfort, but no one notices comfort and ease. So normally it takes other people to point it out, unless you're self-aware enough that you do things like body and mental scans of yourself. So you pay attention to how you're doing. I had a friend, I remember years ago, when I created my very first recording, not my system, but my recording. And he tried it for half an hour. He came over, he drove over, and he said, well, Morry, I got to tell you, it felt like half an hour. Sometimes for some people, it feels like 3 hours. Sometimes it feels like 5 minutes. You know, it depends. But for him, he felt nothing. He heard the pulse tones. He heard the background sound. There was no talking in this recording. It was just entrainment. And it felt like half an hour. And he got up. He said, okay, I got to get going. I'll see you later. Sorry. And I said, don't be sorry. You know, nothing's right for everybody. Clean air and clean water. Those are the only 2 things that are good for everybody. So he went on his way. And I, you know, went back to what I was doing and forgot about it. About an hour later, he calls me up and tells me, Morry, I got home a little while ago and I got to tell you something. I said, what do you have to tell me? Well, on my drive home, I got cut off by a couple of drivers. And normally I give them the finger and I yell and I scream. Didn't bug me at all.
That's big.
Yeah, but it's something you don't notice because it took him like a while to notice. And when he was telling me about it, you could even hear a little strangeness in his voice. Like, did that really happen?
Mm.
You know, like he didn't even believe it. It was like it wasn't him. But that's the thing. So sometimes people will notice it faster. Sometimes you notice things right away, like within a few minutes. Not necessarily behavioral things, but you'll notice physiological changes. tingling in the extremities is common. A feeling of intense heaviness or lightness, sometimes both at the same time. You know, sometimes physical changes. You feel a little warm, a little cool. All kinds of little things can happen, but they're not necessary to the event. They're not necessary to the effect. The true effects happen over time and regular listening as we use the products regularly and consistently.
And how many people have you reached? Because it's been a few years now, right? Behind you, really just
almost 18.
Yeah. So how many people did start using your product? Because I think probably people should really give it a try. That's the feeling that
Well, we do have a money back guarantee also on all of my products. So the only thing I ask from someone is give it a real shot, because the whole idea here is overall in the grand scheme of this kind of field, you know, self-help and self-improvement, my products are pretty inexpensive. You know, like almost all of them are under $1,000. There's just one of them that's over $1,000. Every other, the average price is probably closer to $300 or $400 on the high end. So it's more a case from my perspective of, you know, if you're willing to try it properly and use it properly, then give it a shot. I have no problem giving you your money back if it doesn't help you. But the problem is, in most cases, people don't use it properly, or they don't use it long enough. They'll listen to a recording a few times, their life doesn't change, and they figure, you know, that's it. I want my money back. And this is an endemic problem with people in the self-improvement field, because we're so used to people, you know, giving magical sales letters. Listen for 3 minutes and you will have this miracle in your life. Listen just once and your, you know, money will be on its way to you. You know, you don't have a relationship, don't worry about it, because if you listen to this recording or if you do this exercise, you will have them. You'll need a baseball bat to keep them off of you. You'll have so many men or women after you, it won't even be funny. You know, all these promises that kind of take advantage of people when they're desperate, when they're sad, when they're down, when they're low. It's all about economy. Now, don't get me wrong, if you read our sales letters, they talk about some pretty impressive stuff that can happen also. But it's stuff that can happen. There's no guarantee they're going to happen, because a lot of it depends on you. If you are inspired to take action and you don't, you know, we don't live in a magic world. Magic doesn't exist. Magic is simply science that hasn't been, you know, explained yet. That's all it is. So if you're looking for magic, look elsewhere, because I'm not about magic. But if you're looking to make yourself better and to take that responsibility, to realize that you have all the power you already need, you know, no one's taken the power away from you. But if you believe you don't have power, you don't look for it. And if you don't look for it, you don't see it. And then you believe you don't have power. But you always have your power. No one can take it away from you. All they can do is hide you from looking at it. And when you think you don't have it, if they can make you believe that, then you're weak. But you're not weak. You're, in reality, you're strong. You have everything you need. And ultimately, all you really need is to foster that belief in yourself. That's one of the reasons why I focused on brainwave entrainment, because as I was telling you before, I listened to one recording and I felt things that I've never felt before, like that tingling and the heaviness and the lightness and those kinds of things. When someone who is in a bad state is able to experience something differently, it opens your eyes up to a whole new possibility. And that's the power of brainwave entrainment, especially in the beginning, because it can help you to realize you can feel differently. You know, it's not magic. It's not going to change everything for you overnight. I mean, maybe for the odd person it will. But in reality, that's not how the world works. We live in a physical world, spiritual, sure, energetic, sure, electrical, sure. All these other things play a role as well. But ultimately, if you put yourself in the, you know, in the lotus position and you pray or you meditate, that's good, but that alone isn't going to do anything. You have to take the inspired action, and sometimes that inspired action is a bit of a journey. It involves reading, it involves educating, it involves getting the building blocks you need. You can't make cement without the right ingredients. You can't make a vegetable soup without vegetables. You can't make, you can't make a fried chicken without a chicken. You need to gather what you need first. And that's part of the process. And you know what? The process to get you there is perhaps the most valuable part, maybe even more valuable than when you get there. Because it's the process that teaches you everything you need to know and everything you need to learn and everything you need to do in order to get you there. And every one of you has that power. Guarantee it, because you're here. That's why I know you have that power. Intuitively, that's why you're on a search for products to help you. But understand something, and again, I'm very opinionated in case most of you haven't noticed already, but it is my opinion that we are brought up in a society that tells you to seek out an expert for everything, because we're pretty stupid people, right? I'm stupid, Andre's stupid, you're stupid, we're all stupid people. We need to search out an expert for everything. And when we search out the experts look, if my car breaks down, I'm not going to try to fix it because I know my limits. But if I need help, I'm going to let my intuition guide me to what I need, and then I'm going to use it. And I'm going to adapt it for myself, and I'm going to reinterpret it and reimagine it for myself. Because again, if I had words of wisdom in my work, then you need to reinterpret them for you, because I can only write them in my own reference. I don't know you. I don't understand you. I don't know your history or what's happened to you. How can what I tell you have any relevance in your life other than to maybe inspire you to think along a certain line and solve your own problem? Because the truth is, you're the only person who can solve your own problem. And Andre works from that perspective too. I'm sure of it. I do also. I don't want to be your hero. I don't mind making a tool for you, but I'm not your hero. You are your hero. A friend of mine told me once that I make the paintbrush, but you paint the painting. You paint the picture.
So what is your next big jump, and what's your legacy? I mean, what is exciting you these days? I mean, you've got this amazing adventure, you've got this journey behind you. What now?
Well, the thing about me is my mind has gone from being depressed to incredibly fertile. And I'm actually working on, I have 23 products. I have 17 that haven't been released. And I have another 40 technologies and techniques that I'm developing still.
Wow.
And every time I solve 4 or 5, I think of another 5 or 6. So 40 seems to be the number it seems to have rounded off at as I'm going. So more of the same. I just want to, I believe that I can help everyone to help themselves, everyone. And the best way to be able to accomplish that would be to have as many different styles of stimulation and tactics that I can, so that something will help somebody to help themselves. And I believe that's possible. So for me, the next big adventure is just to get it out to more people and to get more out to more people. I want people to be able to go in. It's like going into a nice restaurant where they can order whatever they want the way they want it, because ultimately they're helping themselves. They're going to cook the meal themselves. They're going to eat the meal themselves. They're going to clean up after themselves. They're going to do everything by themselves. All I'm doing is providing the cutlery, the plate, and the ingredients. But you're doing it all yourself. And that is not a scary thing. If anybody out there is getting a little uncomfortable with me when I say that, because our world says, get an expert, let the expert do it for you, that discomfort you feel, you're misinterpreting. It's actually resistance. And resistance is misinterpreted all the time. Resistance has a bad connotation to it, right? But think about it. If I stand in a pool in the shallow end, at the far end, near the deep end, and I walk towards the end of the shallow end where the stairs are to leave the pool, and it's filled with water, I'm going to feel resistance. Movement makes you feel resistance. That's the lesson. If I walk up the same route, except there's no water in the pool, now it's empty, my walk is much easier. There's far less resistance. But they both accomplish the same thing. So when you feel resistance, it's my opinion that that is actually a good sign. It's not something that should make you back away. It's something that should make you think and look deeper, because that kind of resistance is telling you you're doing something positive, you're moving. It's going to be uncomfortable to do things that are different, because that's not how we're wired by society. We're wired by society to be good little boys and girls, to stay in our place, to stay at our station, not to do anything, don't make waves. But the truth is, if you are not super happy, if you are not super satisfied, that's because, not because you're bad, not because you did something bad in the previous life, it's your mind and your body telling you this isn't right for you. That's what it's telling you. And then when you do things that are different, that will change. And different makes you feel a little uncomfortable sometimes. But when you reimagine it, when you reinterpret different and resistance as not being bad, but being proof that you're changing, all of a sudden it becomes exciting and it becomes motivating to make you try even harder. You know, look, if resistance tells you don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute, don't drive your car into a brick wall, that's pretty good resistance. But if resistance is telling you don't put up your hand and ask a question, or don't do this, or don't get good sleep, or don't eat properly or something, you know, because I'd rather eat at McDonald's or something else, well, that's not good resistance.
And tell us, where can we find you if someone is really after checking you out or taste your product or try it, then where do they find you?
Okay, so most of my websites are independent. So they're independent depending on the product. They can do a search for my name, Morry Zelcovitch. They can do a search for Brainwave Entrainment Engineer. They can go to the morrymethod.com. They can go to activemindsglobal.com. They can call me at 416-876-7939. That's my cell number. I'm always available for questions, comments, or concerns. So pretty much anything, you know, the Morry Method at gmail.com. I'm out there. I'm easy to find. If you want to know more, feel absolutely free and totally comfortable. One of the things is, when you're trying to make your life better, you need to respect and honor yourself. So if you have a question, ask a question. Don't worry if you think it's a stupid question or it'll be embarrassing, because I guarantee you there's other people out there that want to know the same answer that you do. And if everybody shuts up because everybody's worried, nobody grows, nobody learns, nobody gets better.
It's very good advice.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your time. We will put all the details that with your intro under the video, so they will be able to just, with one click, get to you, or even call you with your details. Morry, thank you very much for your time. It was awesome to get.
My absolute pleasure, Andre. Thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.